Yo, Quick Attack Gamers, and welcome to the biggest video we've ever made. This video, as you probably know by now, is a top 100 video games video. However, there is a bunch of things out of the norm that we did in order to make it more unique content. When I was pitching this idea to Jeremy, it was very important to the both of us that we do our very best to take the more common concept of a top whatever and expand upon it. How we did this was by seeking out some YouTubers who are roughly the same size as us and getting a top 10 list from each. We then took these games and made ourselves a list using just about all the games we received, taking into account how many times certain titles appeared or how many times certain game series appeared. Doing things this way gave us our fair share of difficulties, and because of this we do have a few disclaimers to go over before we go ahead with this top 100.
So, first and foremost, not every game here on the list would necessarily be something we would personally rank high or low. While making this list, it was important to us to remain as unbiased as possible in order to be fair to the other YouTubers we worked with. Also, the rank of some games may strike some of you as odd, as we did have a number of people drop out of the project at the last minute due to things going on in their personal life. Disclaimer number 2. Though we did have many hard-working collaborators willing to help us out, we felt like we should do the job of getting footage for games, and thus we opted to get footage from YouTube that was previously recorded by other YouTubers. We will not be monetizing this video because we feel like that would be kind of a scummy thing to do in order to make money using work that other people have done. We will make sure that we credit all the people we got footage from so that hopefully their channels can grow and benefit from this video as well. Last but not least, and we feel like this is important to stress, since Brendan and I were responsible for ranking the games, despite our best efforts to remain unbiased, naturally, there are some cases where it came down to how we view the games. This is simply due to the fact that we physically cannot put ourselves in somebody else's mindset with their point of view on certain titles. It's physically impossible.
That being said, I hope you guys enjoy this passion project of ours, and if you feel equally as passionate about video games, I encourage you to write us in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts and opinions on our list.
PacMan is just an all-out family favourite game. From your bedroom to your arcade, PacMan just wins hands down. It is one game that all generations know about, through and through. Everybody's played it, I know, and if you haven't, well, you're just missing out big time. This little yellow face going around the screen and you're trying to avoid the ghosts, and then you occasionally get to eat them and eating all the beans. It's just an insane game. It's gone as far as being on massive 3-meter tall arcade games, to being on your PlayStation discs, to being in your plug and play it for your HD telly. It's a timeless game. The game will never die. It will carry on going. It's just one of the all-time greats of games.
To be honest, this was an overlooked game when it came to the Nintendo Game Boy. When card games are talked about, people usually think of the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, but I believe Pokemon TCG holds up to the card game name. Typically, when you're playing a Pokemon game, the objective is to catch them all, and that is exactly what you do in this game. To collect all the cards available in the game, you would have to go to tournaments, defeat club members, and also to take down the 4 Grandmasters of the game. However, the sense of accomplishment is just one reason to love this game. This being my first card game I have ever played, the gameplay had me intrigued. For those who don't know anything about this game, the objective is to defeat all of your enemy's monsters from their playing field to win the duel. Every time you defeat a monster, you collect a prize from the prize table. Once there is nothing left on the prize table, or your opponent is out of usable Pokemon, you win. The storyline, however, was a bit lackluster. It's what you expect from any other Pokemon game. Beat the 8 Club Masters, obtain the emblems from said Club Masters in order to face the 4 Grandmasters. Once defeating the Grandmasters, your friend and rival, Ronald, is there to tell you he is the one who's defeated them all before you. Sounds familiar, right? The last thing I want to mention about this game is the amazing soundtrack it has. I've never been so hyped to initiate a duel with someone, all because of the Grandmaster theme. The Grandmaster theme is actually still one of my favorite songs and is used in our stream song list. With all that being said, even though this is a card game and it lacks in its storyline and gameplay, it'll always be one of my favorite card games.
The Sims is one of the best-selling series of games ever, and it's not hard to see why, with the unique game style of controlling virtual life and creating their moods and fulfilling their desires and creating their house and life and environment. The original Sims was just life-changing, especially for teenagers. I think back in 2000, where it was their way of sitting at a desktop and just controlling everything. I remember playing the game through and through and trying to create the best house, or trying to trap your Sims and just having loads of fun, and just the basic concept of it with just no aim to the game, so there's no way you could complete it or anything. I think added to the fun of the game, where you can get the Sim to cook their food and have a job and fast forward time, pause time, make the house better, and it was just ongoing progress for yourself as well as the Sim. It was just a fantastic game that you could go on for 10 minutes or spend 10 hours on and still have an insane amount of fun.
Call of Duty Black Ops 2 is considered to be one of the best games of the series, and I strongly agree with this argument. With a great balance between the weapons and Treyarch as a developer, Black Ops 2 quickly became a fan favorite. BO2 introduced the Pick 10 system, a brand new way for players to customize their loadout. It also introduced League Play, a brand new way for more serious players to go head-to-head competitively. Black Ops 2 is the first Call of Duty game I picked up, and it is easily my favorite.
Now, when most people think about military shooters, most people think of Call of Duty or Battlefield. Battlefield has some aspects of military shooters, but the game that I'm here to talk to you guys about today is Arma 3. Now, Arma 3 is the successor to Arma 2, and Arma 2 the successor to Arma. Arma 3 is probably the most advanced military, I'd have to say, simulator shooter. It's not exactly a first-person shooter, it's more of a simulator than anything. You get customization of what you have on a character, from what optics he has on his weapon, scopes, red dot sights, medium range scopes, ACOG sights, anything like that, to bipods and foregrips, to suppressors or flashlights, to, even the color of your gun, whether or not it's tan or not. Like, it's just, the amount of customization in this game is insane. And when you think of it, it's just an overall massive, like, it's a full open world shooter. It's nothing like Call of Duty where it's, 10 on 10 in a small map. When you think of Arma 3, it's 64 on 64, and you can use a full 200, and I think it's almost 300 square kilometers of a map if you really wanted to. The full potential of the game is still being worked on with mods and bug fixes here and there, but as they go, it becomes better and better.
Persona 4. Combining genres such as RPG and dating sim may seem a little bit odd to some, but if you've played this classic PS2 title, you know just how well it can be done. Most people may recognize this series from its popular spin-off series, Persona 4 Arena or Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, or maybe even its popular anime retelling its tale, Persona 4 The Animation. Few people I know actually played this game or even know about this game, and that's just kind of a shame. Having some very solid mechanics and storytelling, I personally think that this is one of the best games the PS2 has to offer. It sort of puts you into an anime-styled world and throws you into a fun and tough murder mystery. What I love best in these types of things is when it gives you enough information to solve it before the actual cast does, and I was actually successful there, so that just added to my love of the game. If you love any of the following, I strongly suggest you check it out. If you love difficult but solid RPGs, anime, great voice acting, or even the occasional waifu war, this game is right up your alley. I know this is neither the time nor the place, but Rise is waifu, by the way, just putting that out there. This game also has a godlike OST, being composed by the brilliant Shoji Meguro, featuring vocalist Shihoko Harada, who has a beautiful voice, honestly. The thing I can say about this game most, and I know I've said it a few times already for some other games, but it's just that this game is just solid. Everything that it does well, and its only real downside being that it starts a little bit slow with little option what you can do, but eventually it opens up in a huge way. And I guess sometimes it does have very punishing fail states, but some gamers would argue that that's actually a good thing. I recommend that anybody check it out, as you can even get it for the PS3 on the PlayStation Store nowadays. But just remember folks, Rise is waifu. Pokemon Snap. It's just a very unique type of Pokemon game. While the Pokemon series gets its fair share of flack for having the same formula for each of its games, people rarely take a step back and look at all of the Pokemon games that are actually completely different. There are tons. Many Pokemon puzzle games, tons of games with very different concepts, and even a few that don't involve catching a single Pokemon. Pokemon Snap is one of these very fun games that we just love so much. In Pokemon Snap, the objective of capturing Pokemon is given a whole new meaning. Instead of trying to lower a Pokemon's health in order to catch it, you must catch the Pokemon doing something spectacular and capture it in a photo. You travel over the world as a Pokemon photographer and get to see all different types of Pokemon, solving puzzles and seeing Pokemon. Seems like your usual Pokemon game formula, but with almost a relaxing twist. The photos that you take are rated by Professor Oak himself, and then the best picture of whichever Pokemon it is gets to stay in the collection. While this game doesn't technically have multiplayer, this was always fun to compete in with friends. Who's got the better Pikachu? Is it Surfboard Pikachu or Balloon Pikachu? Balloon it is! Haha! Eat shit, James. There are tons of Pokemon for you to take pictures of, so it keeps you pretty entertained. The one thing I think it lacked was serious longevity as a video game. It's really fun while it lasts, don't get me wrong, but there aren't that many levels, and after you complete them so many times, it eventually gets kind of stale. Even so, I would easily recommend this game to any fan of the Pokemon series who just kinda wants a new spin on it.
Advance Wars: Days of the Ruin. This was probably my first strategy game I've ever played. I got bored of the same old Pokemon games and bad third-party games released for the Nintendo 3DS that I needed something new, and this game gave it to me. In this game, you have to strategically build different units to plan your attacks. The more territory your army owned, the more money you would gain each turn, making it so you could build an expensive war tank, or assault your enemy with a couple fighter jets or some medium tanks. This game constantly made you crucially think about your next moves, such as if they had too many planes on their side, you might want to buy some anti-air units, or you could even go head-to-head with your own set of planes. One big thing to note about this game is its story. For a game such as this, I really wasn't expecting such a sad story to come out of it, which I guess by the end of the game I didn't really surprise me since this game took place in the apocalyptic time. A neat little thing this game also did was its multiplayer. After beating the game, you could make your own levels that you could play on with your friends, who could download play with you, placing your friends against you or on a team with you to take down the enemy. If you're looking for a decent strategy game with an amazing plot, this game is definitely for you.
Released in August 1986 from Nintendo, this game is generally considered the pioneer of the Metroidvania genre. This game tasked Samus with hunting down the space pirates and the retrieval of the Metroid organism. It should be noted that this game is one of the first commercial successes that featured a female protagonist, even if the instruction manual would lead you to believe otherwise. Metroid's gameplay is that of a 2D non-linear adventure game, which in itself set it apart from all the other adventure games of its time. The non-linear aspect of the game had us backtracking throughout the world, whenever we had discovered a new permanent power-up. Permanent power-ups were also a new idea of the time, as everything else was a temporary effect. That said, we would later find out that these power-ups were in fact temporary, as she would somehow, inexplicably, lose them all in the next game. This game created the baseline for the main Metroid series, barring Metroid M, with exploration and upgrades being the main focal point. Another thing, it should be noted that Metroid had multiple endings. Depending on how long it took someone to complete it, the ending would change, and this made itself popular in the world of speedrunning. The soundtrack itself was revolutionary as well. Most games, if not all of them, came with some kind of, and I use this term loosely, catchy tune. Some kind of 8-bit theme pop song played over indefinitely. This game instead blurred the sound effects and music in an attempt of a more organic, living thing, and it worked quite well. The use of silence in a game underscored the feeling of exploration within the game itself. This game's legacy still lives on today. It is still being ported to mobile devices, though, to be fair, it was remastered due to the technical limitations Metroid faced at the time of release, and though it may not be as refined as Super Metroid, this game is still a lot of fun. Thank you, Metroid. Without you, the beloved genre of Metroidvania may not be where it is today.
Super Punch-Out! Punch-Out was a series that intrigued me, but never got around to playing until fairly early into the year of 2015. It's really just an amazing game to play whenever you need something to kill time. This game has you face multiple boxers, each with different unique fighting styles and patterns, starting from beginner to insanely difficult. This game really teaches you to pay attention to patterns, as that's what you'll have to do to remember while facing each and every opponent. Well, except for maybe the beginner boxers. One thing that caught my eye in this game were the character designs. Some of them were just making fun of people's nationality, which was actually hilarious. I mean, come on, doesn't every Canadian look like this? The music in this game was always uplifting and made you hype and energetic, as a boxing game should make you feel. This isn't really a surprise when this game comes straight from the SNES. But what is surprising is how much smoother this game felt compared to the original Punch-Out for the NES. The controls felt tighter, and overall the bigger sprites on the screen, having it as almost a first-person view, really made me enjoy the game that much more. Anyone can really pick up this game and have a fun time, but beware, the extra levels of this game are extremely difficult if you don't know what you're doing.
Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon for the Super Nintendo is the first game released in the Harvest Moon series. While some may consider the GameCube or PlayStation versions of this game to be better, I played the Super Nintendo version first, and this game is just filled with nostalgia. It started everything for Harvest Moon. This game is for everyone who would like to see what the farming lifestyle is like, but also don't want to actually be a farmer. At the start of the game, you inherit a rundown farm, and the objective of the game is to maintain and improve the farm. The gameplay is simple, but in a sense, it's calming. From the fresh, sunny music, to being able to even pick a wife, to just relaxing and improving your farm, this game is a serious matter.
If you like swinging around New York, kicking bad guys' asses, and most importantly, doing sick pizza delivery missions, then SpiderMan 2 is the game for you. In this game, you play as the lovable superhero Spider-Man. This game is obviously based off the movie Spider-Man 2, but with some spins. While there is the main storyline of protecting the city against the evil forces of Doc Ock, you also encounter Mysterio, Shocker, and Black Cat. The gameplay in this game was pretty solid too. The swinging mechanics were very well done, and since you could buy upgrades throughout the game, it made your swinging faster and easier to control. Speaking of upgrades, you could also buy them to strengthen your combos, or make them longer. Spider-Man 2 did a great job at entertaining you before you get back into the storyline once again. You need to complete little tasks for people around New York until you have enough hero points to be able to do more of the storyline. Things like save a guy from falling off a building to beating the crap out of a car to be able to stop a carjacker? And finally, without a doubt, the best mission of all, the pizza delivery missions. All in all, SpiderMan 2 is a great game with lots of fun to be had. If you want to play this game, you can get it relatively cheap at pawn shops, and it's definitely worth buying.
Yakuza 4. Oh god, I love this game. While going through this list, keep in mind I'm kind of a sucker for interesting plot. First off, this game is actually a JRPG, which most people wouldn't think about it like this, at least at first glance. But it does focus on random battles with the standard leveling system. The gameplay is really solid too. It feels great to hit guys with what are some seriously brutal finishing moves known as heat moves. Focusing on 4 characters, this game does an amazing job connecting the protagonists throughout their quests. One of my favorite tropes is used quite frequently in this game, which is having characters fight other playable characters or past playable characters. The plot of this game is interesting. The problem, it's far from what I'd call solid. There are moments where the incompetence of characters borders on unbelievable. I won't go into spoilers, but there's literally a point where characters involved in certain setups fall for the exact same setup, and this happens more than once. While this is a big problem that can leave a player saying, "This is dumb," it kinda adds a comical effect, and speaking of comical, this game is very Japanese, so if you find some of those Japanese culture style jokes funny like I do, man, you will just laugh frequently while playing this game. With the recent localization of Yakuza 5, I recommend people pick up 4, which is in my opinion the best one, and the one most likely to get you into the series. Just make sure you check that reminisce section, because if not, you will be lost as fuck with the plot.
Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Now, if you know me, I'm not a huge fan of the Sonic series. In fact, this is the only game I've actually been able to complete in the entire series, and for a good reason. In this game, you could play as the heroes or as the villains. I found it interesting how throughout gaming, you would play as the heroes, always taking down the bad guys, but in this game you could actually play the role of the villain. Each story had 3 different playable characters alongside their unique playing styles. You had Sonic and Shadow the Hedgehog, using their speed to traverse through cities, pyramids, and even space. These bits of the game were a blast because it was always fast action with destroying enemies, grinding down railings, all at an insanely fast pace. Then you had your Knuckles and Rouge levels, where you have a Chaos Emerald radar to find a certain amount of emeralds or emerald pieces in a specific amount of time. These levels were a nice change from the Sonic missions, and who doesn't love some nice jazz music while hunting for treasure? Now on to the bad missions. The Tails and Dr. Eggman missions are the worst. It just feels like you're spamming your shoot button to take down bosses and enemies without even trying, and it's just overall boring. A fun thing you could do on the side is bring in upgrades you found by defeating enemies or finding secret animals to give to your chows in the Chow Garden. You could level up your chow and make them fight against each other in these fun mini-games. The only bad part about this game is its insanely easy bosses, with the exception of maybe a few, and its Tails and Dr. Eggman levels, making the game a tad bit dull at times. If you want to check out this game for yourself, you can buy it for the Nintendo GameCube, PS3, Xbox 360, or even PC. Mario Power Tennis. What happens when you put a bunch of Mario characters, some tennis rackets, and some minigames into a game? Well, you get Mario Tennis, of course, but in this case you get what is one of my favorite games for the GameCube, Mario Power Tennis. Now this is a Mario sports game, so obviously there isn't a lot of depth to this game, but with that being said, this game is an amazing multiplayer game to play with your friends. Personally, my favorite thing to do in this game were the fun mini-games. You could play them by yourself, against your friends, or even together with your friends. No matter which minigame you picked, you were bound to have a lot of fun. The tournament mode in this game was awesome as well. The scaling and difficulty was really well done. It truly felt like each time you were going into a different tournament, the AI were becoming much more difficult and challenging. You could do these tournaments in singles or doubles, which you could also have your friends be the second player in your doubles tournament. Power Smash was definitely the best in the series, which isn't surprising with the N64 release being the first in the series, so there wasn't a whole lot to it, and the new Mario Tennis being released on the Wii U, Mario Ultra Smash, well, let's not talk about that disappointment.
Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. For those of you that know our channel, it should come as no surprise to see me putting a Dragon Ball game in here. I first found Dragon Ball back when I was very little, when my sister and brother and myself would watch a rerun episode every night before bed. Soon, I saw a game on a store shelf titled Dragon Ball Z Budokai. I knew I had to play it. The story began to come together for me, and I found myself falling in love with the franchise. All I really knew was up to the Cell Saga. I've always been the type to wonder though. I would spend hours thinking about what-if matchups or combinations that would interest me in Dragon Ball. I still love these what-if matches in modern games today. So enter Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. This is seriously like Dragon Ball What If the game. The plot of this game is slightly altered from the original, but the main draw for me is that it gave the player options of who they would like in the party at the start of each mission. All of a sudden, I could have a realized matchup with some of my real favorite characters from the series with some of the most memorable villains. Another thing about this game that makes it edge out the other two for me is the amazing OST. While the other Budokai games had a bit more of a grungy rock-based soundtrack, Budokai 2 has a very smooth and catchy jazz-type track. The opening to DBZB 2 is still one of my all-time favorite songs ever, not even just in gaming. Many people would say that this game suffers from its combination of a board game and fighting game style story mode. I personally had a ton of fun with it. It's a shame that it couldn't be re-released with the rest of the Dragon Ball Z Budokai HD collection, but hey, what can you do? Also Super Boo, kinda, yeah, you can absorb Vegeta. Yeah, you can be Super Boo or Vegeta absorbed. It's fucking great!
Now, Modern Warfare 2 has to be in this list. It is one of the most exciting first-person shooter games I have ever encountered. From just the multiplayer maps, the gameplay, the guns, the sound effects and the graphics were just incredible. At the time, I just loved playing the game on my 360, getting into a party with my friends and experiencing the run and gun gameplay and going through all the glitches on the maps where may have been put in purposely, may not have been. Also, how people played it that much, they even made their own mini games inside the game, such as My Myers and quick scope, no scope matches. It was just incredible where people would come on and play these games that they just made up. Someone just made up one day, and they went out and played it on Rust and had so much fun. I just remember meeting up online after school and playing the game and knowing everyone was going to be on. A game that I paid 50 quid for, which to me back in the day was an excruciating amount, and just having Modern Warfare 2 made it all worth it. And it was just, to this day I'd still play it now if it was out on the Xbox One.
Animal Crossing New Leaf. I actually have never played any Animal Crossing game until I bought Animal Crossing New Leaf for the 3DS with my Club Nintendo points. Man, this game keeps you busy. And that's the thing, this game is designed to just keep you busy, and there's always things to do. You could be planting trees to have some better fruit grow, or plant some flowers to make your place look nicer, send mail to your neighbors, and even slingshot gifts that are floating through the air. The house customization was really neat as well. Having special events that could give you Nintendo-inspired figurines, such as the Triforce or Yoshi Egg, was a good touch. The thing that got you to keep playing this game every day could be things from new things arriving in the shop every day that you could use to customize your character, such as a Wario hat, to things like new fortune cookies every day that gave you random rare items. But of course, the one thing you need to do any upgrades or designs is bells. And you can obtain bells by selling fruit that grows from trees, selling fish or bugs that you caught, artifacts that you caught, and so much more. Eventually, you could even go to an island that's away from where you are to catch exotic bugs and fish that could be sold for huge prices. All in all, this is a great game to just casually play through whenever you're bored, or if you want to just change things up.
A game coming from the developer of Halo and the producer of the Call of Duty series, Destiny was a highly anticipated game. In fact, it is said to have some of the best graphics of the first-person shooter genre. The beautiful scenery immersed gamers into the experience, and competitive missions kept people, including me, coming back.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is arguably the greatest game released from the breakout series Grand Theft Auto. This game is practically the epitome of what Grand Theft Auto is, all bundled up into a neat little ball. This game has a massive selection of weapons, it has that iconic GTA humor style, it even has a frickin' jetpack. Like, seriously, who doesn't want to go around on a frickin' jetpack? Nobody. That's who. San Andreas, on top of all that stuff, managed to have a story that I could actually take serious, which is something I really didn't get from GTA 5. I actually found myself caring what happens to CJ, which is more than I can say for any of the three main protagonists of 5. In terms of side activities, there was so much to do. You can improve your physical attributes, your sex appeal, turf wars, become a friggin' graffiti artist, and let's not forget the infamous hot coffee mod. Hey? Eh? You guys know about that. Don't lie to me, we all know what it is. All around, it's a strong entry into a pretty strong series. It even has one of the larger maps in the Grand Theft Auto games. I'd recommend this game to anyone who's only ever played the newer Grand Theft Autos, especially those that have only played 5, because I noticed a boom of people becoming fans around that time.
Hey, if you're watching this, that means you've made it to the end of the video. While you're here, why not check out the YouTube and Twitch channels that made this video possible? You can click on the respective photos to check them out, or if you're on your mobile device, their channel links will be down in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.